We are amazing spiritual creatures, so absolutely in tune between the physical world through our psyche that even something as simple as the placebo effect can basically cure us of anything that we suffer. And the very fact that this phenomenon is real and very well documented necessarily implies that we are more than we suppose ourselves to be. And if we follow this logic, that something like the placebo effect, just the mere belief in an abstract that can actually bring a positive event into a negative situation, the very fact that this has been so widely documented means necessarily that we are thinking things into existence. And this means we are much more than we suppose ourselves to be. And that many of the things that we experience on a daily basis just might be tied to the very thoughts that we had yesterday. The very experiences that we had yesterday just might be intrinsically entwined with belief systems that we formerly fed into last week. The central nervous system is the bridge between the psyche and the simulated context that we find ourselves in. And I know many of you have had a hard time wrapping your mind around a simulated world, but I do not believe that a true oversoul would ever create a predator versus prey ecosphere. Therefore, we're here, we are contained in something else. And if that something else has all the hallmarks of violence that are very cleverly concealed within things we call natural phenomena, where creatures, in order to sustain their biological avatars, have to tear into and invoke terror and pain into other living organisms, then we need to think this through. We need to process this information. We need to figure out exactly what it is that we're experiencing. Because innately, deep inside you, you know that's not right. You know that a loving oversoul would never create a situation where entities would have to devour each other in order to maintain their sustenance. It's not right. So, for this to be normalized, for us to so readily accept this means that we have been programmed to accept it. There's no way a rational being who accepts that they're an immortal flowing through a continuum, which is nothing but programming, a construct that was designed by something to deceive us, would ever, by natural consequence of just logic, ever assume that this is normal. Because it's not. Something else has happened. And we don't really like to speculate. I mean, we can follow the traditional lore. We can go into the Sumerian cuneiform, and we can read all about Zu. We can see how absolutely there was a controversy in ancient times where a god was accused of helping human beings. We can. But it's still speculation, because what if the Sumerians only invented the story to explain the phenomena itself? We don't know. The main teaching is that you have to understand, I can't stress enough, that if you're living a day-to-day mundane existence that's absolute copied as a blueprint of the day you lived before, if you find yourself in that rut, you have to break pattern. If you don't break pattern, you will never change the fundamentals of your life. You'll never change. You have to understand you're in a mathematical construct. The arithmetic will always obey laws. Those laws are always connected to patterns. This is like Mandelbrot frequency. It's gonna maintain the exact same pattern even in different dimensions of arithmetic. And if you don't do something to break pattern, your life will continue to unfold down the same reality tunnel you've been traveling, because you're going down a trajectory. And if you don't alter it, then you're going to have the same experiences. Those same experiences will cause the same destitute attitude. That destitute attitude, that anxiety will always create an imprint. It's a feedback loop. Because you feel destitute, you will automatically fall into a depression that causes you to do the exact same things you did before, which is providing a situation where you're acting and being in stasis. And as long as you're not a projector, you're a receiver. And as long as you're a receiver, the construct itself will take this as a command. It is going to mathematically construct for you the very thing you're already doing, because it does not care what you say, it only observes what you do. When the physical avatar is moving in a certain direction, it will always create that reality tunnel. You are actually sending waveforms of yourself into the future. Remember, this is a palindromic sequencing, meaning what you do in the present affects both the past and the future. This is why something as simple as retrocausality, you imagining that you actually had a much better day yesterday, will create a better day for you tomorrow. If you are in the present thinking that your yesterday was terribly effed up and that you're anxious about it and you're mad and you're pissed at somebody and all you do is dwell on yesterday, the construct will reflect that back as circumstance. You will forge for yourself the exact mathematical construct, the reality that you lived in the past and you imagine in the present will become your reality tomorrow. You do this to yourself every single day. This is because there is a non-local element to the human psyche. If you don't recognize by now that you are independent of your avatar, then your tomorrow will always be like today. If you think you are a body and not an immortal within, then there's no way that you will ever enter that co-creative relationship with the construct. We're talking about an oversoul and immortal relationship. We're talking about a co-creator relationship. Anybody who thinks they're here on their own volition is only fooling themselves. Something put you here, and it put you here for a reason. The most pitiful souls, those who are stuck in dungeon programming, this negative default programming that absolutely saturates the collective, it induces all these psychoses and depressions. These are the people who think they're here to save the world. Those who believe that they're here to save the world do nothing but reap an entire lifetime of regret and negative experiences. But the individual who realizes that they're here to pass through, they're a sojourner, they're a pilgrim, they don't belong in this construct, they're an immortal soul here to learn lessons, to take what they can, to grow and mature and bring those with them who also vibrate on the same frequency. These are the souls that make their exit. They don't belong in the construct. Once they awaken, they're no longer welcome here. The construct wants you in dungeon programming. It wants you stuck in the paradigm of this feedback loop, which is the predator versus prey ecosphere. If you're a participant in these activities, it will reward you. You will reap the benefits of the construct. But if you think you're going to save the collective from the construct itself, then you don't understand just how powerful negative default programming is. You're not going to save the world. There's 100 million people in the past 100 years who have prayed fervently for a cure for cancer, and that has not happened yet. There's 100 million people that have suffered 100 million ailments, and by virtue of belief and activity, some of those people have healed themselves and yet given the credit to the pharmaceutical companies. But the truth of the matter is all healing comes from within. The avatar is absolutely invested with peptides, and the peptides are activated by spiritual activity. It is just the opposite, guys. The brain is not the origin of the thinking capacity of intellect and being and human and cognition and mnemonics. None of this comes from the brain. The brain releases hormones which are commensurate with whatever thoughts it receives from the spirit. It is the exact opposite of what you are taught by academia. The brain is the chain to the central nervous system by which your immortal soul experiences a physical reality, even though this isn't real. And because it's not real, it's things like the placebo effect that become more real than the actual medicines that we ingest. If you can't wrap your mind around the placebo effect, you're not going to be able to move forward with this type of material. The placebo effect has been widely documented to heal people by nothing but the agency of their belief in a remedy, no matter what they were suffering. And the very fact that that happens means that the peptides we have within our body can absolutely replicate whatever they need to synthesize whatever they need to for the human body to restore itself, to become more regenerative, and for the avatar to be in sync with the spirit within. being immortal means we're also timeless. If we accept that the oversoul is himself or herself is eternal, then we cannot think of it as a singularity. That means the oversoul has never stopped creating. And if that's true, then that means the dynamic between the oversoul and all the immortals that the oversoul has spawned isn't over yet either. More and more of us are being created as more and more worlds need to be filled, as more and more cosmos are filled with civilizations and sentient beings that need to know more about the oversoul itself. This will require stewards. This will require training facilities. This will require simulacrums, whole worlds, falsified artificial realities where immortal souls can learn, develop, pass through as pilgrims, and then move on to destinations as the creator continues to create. This is why it's unending. If our oversoul is eternal, then the creation is eternal as well, and the generation of new souls into the constructs is unending. This means there will always be a place, and that means we are on a trajectory. As immortal beings, this is only a stepping stone. We may be going through many constructs just like this. What we have to understand is if things are as timeless as they are conveyed, then this necessarily implies then what we experience in the present, by virtue of imagination, we can actually build a falsified version of the past to create a much better future. If you don't like your past, you can imagine a new one if you think that's necessary for you to change the trajectory of the events in your life, for you to build a better tomorrow. If retrocausality is so real as our physicists tell us, then it doesn't matter which direction on the plane you go, the outcome will be the same. Our experience is only linear, but we can build in any direction we want to, and the construct will reciprocate.